All right, so Peter Benavente is at it again, and this time he has requested an entire franchise, and that is the Underworld franchise, which is kind of ironic because I just picked up Blood Wars on Amazon for like $5 recently. Like, when I say recently, I mean like this week. And he just so happened to, and I picked it up for the sole purpose of someone picking this as a series request because I knew it was inevitable, and it was just like, oh, we'll just get the final movie, because like these other ones I picked up for like $5 or something. I think I got most of these for like $5 when I saw them in like Walmart bins, maybe $3.40, whatever that even cheaper bin is, $3.88 or something. I just picked up ones randomly. Did the same with the the Resident Evil franchise. I have all 6 of those films by just picking up random DVDs here and there, so that one day I could tackle the franchise. So we're of course going to start with this. Now, this one I bought when it came out because I was a pretty big fan of this movie when it originally released, and I don't think Blu-ray was even a thing when this came out, and if it was in its infancy. This is the heaviest fucking DVD that I think I've ever held. It's crazy heavy, man. It feels like it's like a full pound. It's wild how heavy this thing is. It's got this cool slipcase where she's like over, and you got the moon rising behind her, and then coming over here. It's actually a pretty cool case for a DVD. Not a huge fan of DVD, but for franchises like this, I don't really need a thing. Although at Walmart, Resident Evil, all 6 films, and Underworld, all 6 films, are both in collections at Walmart on Blu-ray, and they're both $25 a piece. So that's about what I paid. Actually, I probably paid more for all of these, so I'd much rather have that set because I like the better quality. Same thing with Resident Evil, $25 guaranteed that I paid more for those all together in the end. So those sets, those box sets, are pretty damn awesome for how cheap they are. All right, the Underworld franchise. So this first Underworld film very much feels like a product of the let's rush and make everything feel like the Matrix, hysteria of the early 2000s. So you had The Matrix come out in 99, and then you had the Matrix sequels come out a few years later. And this came out around the same year, or if not the same year, as Matrix Reloaded and Matrix Revolution. So it makes perfect sense that they'd have a bunch of cool characters. And Celine's character almost resembles Trinity in this movie. She's got the all black leather jumpsuit, the jet black hair. It very much feels Matrix-y, which isn't a knock on the film at all. I don't want to make it seem like it's some knockoff because it's very much its own thing. The story is nothing like it, and the action sequences don't really resemble the Matrix much, outside of a couple moments. But that was just kind of because the Matrix was such a culturally impactful film at the time in cinema, and just changed the landscape of everything when it came to action films for decades. Well, probably that whole decade, that went after it. So, yeah, I just like the scene where she like jumps over the people and you get like kind of that slow-mo flip as she's flipping back. There's none of that like where they spin the camera around them or anything. They don't do that in this film. I remember the Wesley Snipes film, The Art of War, which came out like the next year after The Matrix, did stuff like that. And I've seen it. I feel like that basically belongs to The Matrix, and anytime you see it after, anyone who sees it rolls their eyes and is like, don't be The Matrix. Which is interesting to me, because it was like a new technique, and then it just kind of went out of style really quick, because people are like, Now with CGI, you can do different things. You can move the camera all sorts of different ways, so you can just be more creative with it. But that was so inventive in '99 when they like Trinity jumped up and then it like panned around her and then she kicked. That was so crazy to see. That was such a cool idea that they'd come up with at that time. But this film, kind of has those moments where she jumps and she cuts Victor's head off as she swings by, and she's like slow mo coming out the screen like she's on wires, which of course the actress would be on wires. You got this opening sequence here where she jumps off of the building, lands, and then like walks away. I remember watching some kind of behind the scenes thing on that, on how much preparation that took, how long they worked on that particular scene, just like getting with her and doing the scene over and over, and training to do that and to make it look perfect, where she just like lands and just kind of, it's so cool too. Like, you can tell that was purposely practiced for a while to look exactly like that, and it's a great effect. I mean, it absolutely, something so small and minor like that, something that just looks so cool. Like, who is this chick? There's like an immediate intrigue started. There's an immediate like, this chick's badass. Whoa, that was cool. I never seen anything like that before. Like, it's interesting to me how 2 seconds of a movie in the opening can kind of set this really cool tone. She just hits the ground and just walks away. It's like, damn, she's hot and she can do that, and she's in leather and she reminds me of Trinity, and oh hell yeah, I'm along for the ride. And it very much does. So you got a really cool story here. So obviously you got the Lycans versus the vampires, and this war has been brewing and going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. And Lucian, who is the werewolf leader, the Lycan leader, he has been thought to be dead for a very, very long time, and he was killed, supposedly, by this dickhead that hangs out with them and is now like a leader because of it, Craven. And as we go on through the movie, we find out that Lucian is actually alive and that Craven's been working with him the whole time. And the story, as it goes, as complex as it can be, because you're introducing an audience to a world that they've never seen before. This is all brand new to them, and you're having to introduce so much in a short amount of time, 2 hours, a lot of exposition, a lot of explanation, a lot for the audience to follow. Like, wait, who's what and who's where on what side? And I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out like who's on what side, but when it comes to like traitors, and then when Celine finds out that Victor actually killed her family, and what that means to her, and what side, Michael is on in that moment, and what that means for Celine. And there's a lot going on here. And this could easily become convoluted. You could easily become lost in all of these new names and all of this lore and all this history and the back and forths and who's doing what for what reason, that kind of stuff. But I feel like they do a pretty damn good job of keeping you on track. Like, I never felt confused in this, but I was kind of sitting back going, wow, there's like a lot being said here. And typically that can lose an audience, but I think they do a really good job of keeping it pretty straight. So kudos to them, to Len Wiseman and everyone else involved behind the script and behind the camera. And the Lycans at this point are, kind of pushed into the shadows. Their numbers are dwindling, or so the vampires think. And the vampires are like the higher ups. They're the hierarchy. They're the people sitting on the fucking throne. They're at the top of the food chain. And the werewolves, the Lycans, they just walk around, in the subways. They have an underground faction. They have been pushed into pretty much the brink of extinction. And they've been working on this plan for years and years and years. This has been the long game plan for sure. And you've got Celine, who's a death dealer, which I think that's such a cool name for your protagonist, or your it's just a cool name, and I was like, that's sweet. So you've got her, and she's just hunting werewolves doing what she thinks she's supposed to be doing, and then she sees this hot guy played by Scott Speedman, Michael Corbin, and the only real, I don't want to say issue, because as I said, they're trying to get so much done, and you know this is where the story's heading anyway, so I think you kind of just go along for it. But I don't feel like the love between her and Michael is established well enough for me to believe it. And I also have to remark on the fact of vampire movies, how in our society we think that somebody who's X amount of years older than someone is just gross and almost pedophilic by nature. But in vampire movies, especially in something like Twilight, where the guy is like hundreds of years old and Bella's like underage, but because he was bit when he was underage, I guess it's all good. Even this guy's like 500 years old and he's fucking like a 16, 17-year-old girl. But he looks 17, so fuck it. Is it just the look of somebody that people care about? It doesn't seem to be. It seems to be the mental capacity and taking advantage of somebody who isn't fully developed mentally. But yeah, I mean, Celine is fucking hundreds and hundreds of years old, and this guy's what, 30? So I mean, there's a bigger age gap between them than Kate Beckinsale and Pete Davidson when she was dating him. I mean, she's 20 plus years older than him, which I couldn't give a fuck. Good for him. Every guy's jealous. She still looks incredible. She's only like in her 40s, I think, so it's not like she's that old, but she does still. There's plenty of people who let themselves go horribly later on in their career, and she sure as hell has not. But yeah, I mean, she just has this relationship with Michael, and I just don't buy it. Like, it's not like when they're having their moments and they're kissing, they don't sell it good. Fine, sure, I guess. But they didn't set me up to buy that relationship. I don't care about their love interest in each other at all. Like, when he's hurt and she cares and all this, it's very forced. There's nothing about it where I'm like, oh man, she really does care for him. They had that amazing moment together. She just kind of thinks he's hot, and she's obviously hot, and he opens up to her and she opens up to him a little bit, but it's just very contrived. It's very, very forced. Like, there's nothing about it that feels natural to me. Now, this is a union between a werewolf and a vampire, so it's not like there's anything natural about it, but you know what I'm talking about. There's no realistic love interest here that I can find in this movie. So I think that's something that I've always struggled with in this franchise. Like in the next one, it's all about their love, and they didn't earn it for me. You've got to you don't even have to spend half your movie getting to that. Wouldn't hurt, but some audiences would be like, dude, I'm here for an action movie, just get along. I don't even need a romance. Fine. But if you're going to have the romance in your movie, if it's going to be the centerpiece, like the whole reason Celine turns on her people is because A, she hates Craven, she wants to expose him as the fuckhead he is. But B, she's tasked with killing Michael by Victor, by basically her fucking Lord and Savior. He saved her family, or as we find out later, he's actually the one that killed her family, and he becomes the true villain of the movie. And Lucien, who's thought to be the villain of the movie, is actually misunderstood, and the Lycans were actually enslaved, and the vampires are dicks, and freaking Celine has been living a lie this entire time, kind of fighting for the wrong side, which I think is cool, and I don't feel like that's touched upon enough. Like, I feel like Celine should have a bigger moment where she's like, oh shit, the werewolves aren't dicks, we're dicks, or Lycans, doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about. Speaking of the werewolves in this movie, yes, the CGI changes, transformations are nowhere near in comparison to something like American Werewolf in London or something. Of course not. And now, do I think that CGI could make the best transformation of all time? Maybe if they even use a little bit of practicals and then CGI enhancements, or a lot of practicals and CGI enhancements, whatever. With the use of CGI, do I think that they could make a better sequence than American Werewolf in London? Like nowadays? Yes, I do. People will think that's blasphemy. Anything that's old is gold to people, and they're like, no, nothing could ever be better. If that's the way you live, if you live that kind of the mentality of like, nothing could ever be better than this, then that's pretty sad. That's pretty sad. Like, I always go into everything hoping that this is going to be the best this. This is going to be the best werewolf movie of all time. Why not? You're just not open to it. That's the problem. Like, if something came along better than Halloween, I would admit it. Now, it'd be very, very difficult, and I understand nostalgia goggles. You can't see through a lot of nostalgia. I get it. It clouds your mind. Halloween might be a bad example just because of how nostalgic that film is, but you can't be that nostalgic about every fucking movie. Like, your nostalgia can only extend so far. So for me, when it comes to werewolf movies, when it comes to zombie movies, when it comes to whatever genre, whatever specific animal, whatever specific scene, whatever, there's very rare moments that are like, oh man, this cannot be touched, but it's like legitimately because it can't be touched. And I get the American Werewolf in London thing, man. It's like the iconic thing. But it can be topped. It just can be. And I don't know. People who say that it can never be, and that's just, as I said, blasphemy. They're just doing themselves a disservice. They're not allowing themselves to enjoy something because they've always got to be comparative. And I'm just not that way. If there's ever going to be a hotter scene on screen than Phoebe Cates coming out of the fucking pool in Fast Times at Ridgemount High, I'll be the first person to want to see it. Be like, fuck yeah, show it to me. And when I see it, I'll be like, wow, I can't believe it, but that is hotter. That'd be a fucking tough mountain to climb, man. That's seriously a high bar. That is the sexiest scene in cinema history to me and a lot of guys. But there's a lot of nostalgia to that too. So I don't know. But the whole American Werewolf London thing, people will always use that as the benchmark. And I don't think most people will ever let anything, no matter what it is, they'll be like, nah. And to me, that's just silly. So could they make a better transformation scene? Yes. With the technology they have today, with how great practical effects have become, seldomly used, unfortunately, but they have become great when they do use them. You could blend the two and actually show a werewolf changing with no cuts, no cutaways, the whole time, his whole body changing. And if you spend enough money on it, because that's just it, I always say that. In horror, people hate the CGI in horror because CGI in horror, or horror in general, just gets lower budgets. But if you had an Avengers type budget, do you not think they could make that fucking look 100% real? Of course they could. But you're never going to get the kind of money towards that. But one day, as CGI becomes more readily available, when it becomes cheaper, when people become better at it, as they are, you could see the most amazing transformation ever on screen. And I do think that day is coming. You're going to see one that you're going to be like, oh my God, that was fucking incredible. That being said, okay, getting past the CGI, the werewolves themselves, the lichens themselves, when on screen, are practical, and they look fucking awesome. So the transformations are very blah. They're very, dated. They don't look good at all. I'm hoping in the later sequels that it gets better. I can almost assume that they will, but none of them are going to look that great, I'm sure. Which is a shame. But we'll get a werewolf movie soon enough. Probably that Wolfman movie with Ryan Gosling. Ooh, you could see an amazing transformation there. You mark my words, that's going to have an amazing transformation. Although, I hope they don't stick to the Universal version and make it just like a Wolfman. Like, I like the remakes, Benicio del Toro's practicals on him. That's pretty cool. But I'm a werewolf, I'm somebody who likes werewolves to be a specific kind of way. Like, I love the werewolves in like Dog Soldiers or something, or Bad Moon, which is my favorite werewolf movie. Like, I love the look of it, werewolves like that. Just bad ass, man. Like the two-legged. Like, if you put a dog on screen, if you put anything that resembles like a fucking wolf, like just like in like Hemlock Grove or like Twilight or something like that. Oh my god, that's not a werewolf movie to me. That's like a killer dog movie. You might as well put that next to Cujo. That's how I see it. I'm like, this isn't a werewolf. That's not a fucking werewolf. That's a dog. What is that? A werewolf gets up on like two fucking legs and has arms and is like half man, half dog. Shit, the one in fucking Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is 10 times better than half the fucking werewolves I've ever seen, which is pathetic. It's a kid's movie. You know? But anyways, alright, moving on. I gotta get out of here. I gotta leave for work in like 5 minutes, though. But I don't have a ton left to say. And, dude, that black dude, the big black dude in this, the werewolf, the Lycan, has the deepest voice of all time. Like, I'd like to hear an interview with this guy. I'd love to hear an interview with this guy. His voice is impossible. Like, is that real? Is that a real voice? If it is, dude, that's got to be almost a curse. Like, everyone who would be around you it'd be so hard to pay attention to what you're saying, because you'd just be sitting there like, what is this fucking voice? This lowest voice of all time. It's crazy, crazy, crazy deep. When he walks in and he's carrying that guy, he's clearly wearing a G-string, and I'm assuming he's supposed to just be naked, but it's just funny because he's wearing clearly a big black G-string. I was laughing when I was seeing it. So they have silver nitrate bullets, and then the werewolves, the Lycans, have freaking UV bullets. So, as one would expect, because everything has to be very modernized. Everyone's got to be using revolvers. And speaking of freaking bullets, holy shit, does Celine have a lot of bullets in her guns. When she's shooting at them 1,000 times and it's firing off like 5 bullets at a time, it's like these small bursts of bullets each time she pulls the trigger. And the clips, it's not even really an extended clip in her fucking in her gun. Like, the magazine is very, very short, but she's just firing them like crazy, and then points them down without reloading and just spins in a circle, shooting until she breaks the floor away and falls down and walks away. And I like how she just walks away, and like the werewolves don't just jump right through the hole and just chase her right back 1 second later. Like, they were right there 2 seconds ago. Why wouldn't they just jump down? Like, she like does that, and it's like she got away. That's it. All's well. Like, they're right there. They're 1 foot away from you. You didn't escape them. You just have a path to... It's not like she doesn't encounter them again, but it's just funny how it cuts away from that. Like, oh, she escaped. She escaped. They're right fucking there. They're still 2 feet away from her like they were before. So silly. And then, okay, let's see where else I want to go here. I feel like I had somewhere to go with that. I know Wentworth Miller makes an appearance here. He sells out his buddy here, Wentworth from Prison Break, which I was like, is that him? He's so young in this. Jesus, it took me a minute. Like, I knew it was instantly him, but then I was like, is it? Is it? And I kept waiting until I got a better look, and I was like, oh shit, it is. It's cool that from my memory, because Underworld, The Rise of the Lycans, we'll see how it holds up this time, is my favorite Underworld movie. I really enjoy that one. I thought it was really cool. I like the prequel aspects. I like getting to know Lucian, that whole thing. My memory of the prequel, lines up extremely well with the flashback sequences in this. Like, they redo that almost identically, if my memory serves me correctly. And if that's so, that's fucking amazing. Stick to that continuity. They probably cast a different actress, because the actress on the front of Rise of Lycans obviously looks just like Kate Beckinsale. Now, that's on purpose because they don't have their main chick, but it makes sense. She wouldn't be around at this time. She's around in all the other ones. But this, I mean, if you could get a close-up on this face, like Google it and zoom in, dude, it's almost Like as if they used Kate Beckinsale on the cover, and we're just like, no, that's our other actress, we promise. Bullshit. That it's so close. But what's funny though, it makes perfect sense that this chick looks exactly like Celine. Now in the flashback here, the chick looks nothing like Celine. But in this movie, unless I'm mistaken, and that is not his girlfriend, Sonia. But I'm about no, it is. I'm like 100% positive it is. Anyways, regardless, the chick in that flashback is like blonde haired. This chick has black hair. So the actress is different. That's fine. It's close enough. I'm alright with it. They didn't cast the. It would be like me getting upset that the flashback in Lord of the Rings is Ian Holm instead of fucking Martin Freeman or something. It's just they weren't making the Hobbit movies at that time. It doesn't blend together. I get it. Okay. And that does annoy me though. I'd have to review those eventually, because why didn't Peter Jackson have him find the ring the same way Bilbo does in the flashback? Like it didn't. There's no necessity for him not to find it that way. You know, like him just walking and just be like, oh, what's this? Like exactly the same as it is. That always has annoyed me. He just kind of picks it up and he's like, oh, and it's like that's not the fucking flashback we saw. Although you could just. No. I'm not going to talk about fucking Lord of the Rings right now. Shit, I got to leave soon. All right. Then you got Bill Nye, the vampire guy. I wrote that joke down because I was laughing at myself. And he's been kept in hibernation, and they pull him out because they reign for like 100 years, and then they go under to slumber again. And then the other one, there's like 3 of them, and they take turns leading, which is really cool. I really like the hierarchy in this. I really like the way that their system works and all of that. It's a really cool, unique system. And she goes down there and she pulls him out of the ground 100 years sooner because she needs his guidance, because he's the one that saved her. He's the only person she trusts. And he comes out and he just wrecks shit. But then he gets killed. And this is always so stupid to me when someone's like head's been cut off or something. They do this in movies all the time. These blades are so sharp that they can cut your fucking head off and you don't even know for like 10 seconds until your head just falls off. He whips his head around. She's already cut it at a diagonal angle as well, by the way, so it would just slide right off. It's not like it's like laying on something that would support it. No, it's been cut at an angle, so it would immediately slide away. But anyways, and they even do this in Resident Evil, which is, for some reason, a franchise I've always compared to one another. Maybe because of the length of the sequels, and it only has like a very specific target audience that goes to it. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, she slices, he whips around, he looks, and he has like a 5-10 second stare down with her before he goes, huh? And then his face slides off. What? No fucking way. Immediately he'd be dead. His brain would be severed. And then B, his fucking face would slide off instantaneously. I know it's for dramatics. I know it's film, whatever. It's just silly to me that they do it so fucking often in these movies. Just like, why, man? And then, yeah, I mean, Michael becomes this half Lycan, half vampire. He's like Blade. You know, he's a daywalker. He has all of their strengths, none of their weaknesses. And that's what he becomes in this. The design, though, of him in this, he looks like Nightcrawler, and he has fucking powers like Nightcrawler because he's just behind him, and he's just there, and then he's just there. Is he teleporting? Like, that was pretty silly to me, how fast he is. The guy turns around, he's just behind him again. Like, what? Why the fuck is he that fast? No werewolf or Lycan, I keep wanting to say. I'm just going to say werewolf. Fucking deal with it. No werewolf or no vampire in this movie has that ability. No one's that fast. Not even the fucking leaders of the vampires. Why come the vampires didn't get cooler names? Like, if you're going to change it to Lycans, why not the vamps have some cool name in addition? The vampires in this mostly drink clone blood. So a lot of them aren't actually feeding. I guess that's like kind of against their nature to go actually feed on humans, which I think is kind of cool. And if that was the case, like if they had clone blood and I could live forever and I never had to kill anybody, fuck yeah, sign me up. I'll become a vampire today. But yeah, if I have to kill people for it, then absolutely not. I like that the elders are set up and that they kill like one of the leaders, and then that's how they get her blood, and that was this big like, dude, this Craven guy, man, he sets everyone like everyone's trading on everyone in this. But yeah, I really really like a lot of this movie. I just don't buy the love interest, and the transformation sequences are dated as fuck. But did I finish what I was saying about Sonya? That it makes sense that she looks exactly like Celine, because in this movie, he says, or when Craven is, kind of telling her like, your Lord and Savior was actually the one who killed your family, but he couldn't kill you because you reminded him of his daughter. Perfect. She looks exactly like her. It reminds him of his daughter. That makes perfect sense. And it makes sense from a financial point to put someone on the poster that looks just like her. So a lot of people think, oh, it's Kate Beckinsale. It's kind of, disingenuous, but it will bring a lot of people in. And that chick is just, not just as hot, because Kate Beckinsale is in her own league. She's like an 11 out of 10. She's one of the most beautiful women that's ever lived. But whatever, Another really silly part before I really got to go. That black dude grabs that fucking vampire, and they have this fight, and he's like running with his team, and the dude tackles him 1 foot from his team as they're running, and none of them turn around or hear it. And he tackles him into a big puddle of water. How did they not hear this? This is so silly to me. And the guy's got whips and whatever, and then as soon as the guy turns into a werewolf, he just grabs him and just boom, he's dead. So the werewolves, on a mano-a-mano fight, unless it's freaking Victor, they don't even stand a chance. But for some reason, Victor easily destroys a wolf like Thanos beating the shit out of Hulk or something. It's like super, super easy. And then the werewolves kind of like are fear or respect Michael at the end here. I don't really know what that is. I guess they back off because it's like, doesn't. Oh, Lucien has this really sweet moment, or kind of interesting moment. He's kind of dispatched of a little too easily in this movie. I don't really like that, but he does look over and sees this like love interest between a vampire and a werewolf, which of course takes him back to his time. So it's like painful for him to see, but almost like he's into it because he gets it. And then another thing at the end of this, Marcus is going to need to be awoken. He's the last guy, and I hope that plays into the next movie. I don't remember the rest of the movies in this franchise like at all, so I'm really looking forward to it. I got to get to work. Adios.